Hello friends, how are you? Welcome to the Pan Study Center. Today we are going to see the chapter of geography, and what is our topic today? Our resource. There is a most important chapter here. Our resource, and first point here, meaning and significance of resource here. As I noted earlier, there are terms in resource generally mean the things of utility for the humans, and it could be of both natural as well as the cultural. Human development technology to the utilize the nature favorably. There are popular use of the technology in a natural system turned into the culture. As a way of life is a living as a such it is attempt to the status of the culture resource here. They are important, and first point resource form the backbone of the economic of a nation. And without a land and water, forest, air, and minerals, one cannot be developed agriculture and industries. And there is important second point: the constitute your natural resource like air, water, forest, and various life forms which are established for human survival and development. And the next year, by the utilizing natural resource, human created there is a urban work of houses and buildings need of transport and communication industries etc, and these are the also very useful along with the natural resource, and this human made resource are stimuli for a development. There is a most important point here. So our next topic is the most important here, classification of resource. There is important the classification of resource here. The resource can be classified in a several way. One, the base of the renewability and origin and utility. There is the most important here. A resource here are three types here of renewability, origin and utility. The objective of classification would be primarily discuss how we put a resource under a particular category. There is important here. The resource here, there are three types here: renewability, origin and utility. And also here further divide the renewability here, renewable, no renewable and cyclic here. Renewability is the three types here: renewable, no renewable, cycling. And origin is also here two types: biotic, abiotic. But utility here further divide here. The utility is further divided there energy and raw material. There is a two types, but energy here are two types and raw material here three types. There are further divide here energy and raw materials. The utility divide energy and raw materials. Energy here no replaceable stuff and the replenishable stuff here. Though is the two types, and raw material here are mineral, vegetation, and food. There is a most important classification of resource here. Here to come to the first point, biotic resource. There is the most important here, biotic resource. What do you mean to hear the biotic resource? This resource include all living element of the environment. The forest and forest product, crop, birds, wildlife, fishes, and other mineral leaves are example of biotic resource here. And this resource is reproduce and regenerate with himself. Hence are the renewable. Coal and mineral oil are also biotic resource, but they are a non-renewable source here. The biotic resource is the most important, and secondly is a biotic resource. This resource include all living element of the environment, land, water, air, and minerals here. The iron, copper, gold, silver, etc. are abiotic resources. The availability and non-renewable as there as cannot be regenerated or reproduced here. You know that there is the most important point here, biotic resource or biotic resource here. The next point here, natural resource certified to human want are the free gift of the nature. For example, land, water, soil, etc. There is the most important point here in the box. Natural resource certified to human want are their free gift of the nature. Natural resource here, a human, there is a free gift of the nature. For example, land, water, soil, etc. There is a source. And any materials that which is valuable and useful for a human is called a resource. Any materials which is valuable and useful for the human is called a resource. And the next point here is source or constitute their natural element environment like air, water, forest and various life form which are essential for human survives as a development here. And the next point here, resource can be classified on the basis of origin, renewability and utility. There is an important point here. On the note down your notebook, there is the most important point in the box. Next topic is the most important here, distribution of biotic resource. Distribution of biotic resource here, there is the most important topic. The first point here, forest. Forest here, a biotic resource here. The forest, when we use the term distribution in a discipline of a geography, our main concern they remain with the geographically are spatials of distribution of geographically phenomenon. Otherwise, distribution for a socialist primarily mean to distribution among the different social class in a society. From a geographer, as a point of view, understanding of area differentiation in distribution of geographical phenomena, such as a forest in the present case, and to be examined the factor responsible for such a differential in a first and most vital task of any geographical study of Earth as a phenomenon. In India, at a present forest area cover about 76.5 billion is a hectare of land, which is about 23% of total geographical area. It is a ranging from about the 87% of Andaman and Nicobar Island to only about 4% in Haryana, making to a range difference of 83%. According to our national forest policy, 33% of the total geographical area of country should be under the forest cover to maintain of ecological balance. Unfortunately, it is below the norms is outlined in our forest policy. That is important. The forest policy, the vegetation found in India can be divided into 6 main types. The vegetation found in India can be divided into 6 main types. They are tropical evergreen forest, tropical discussion forest, and thorn forest, and tidal forest and mountain forest here is an important part. The next year, wildlife. The wildlife is the most important here. India possesses a great variety of wildlife. The India possesses a great variety of wildlife out of a now world total of 1.05 million species of animal, about 75,000 species. The 7.46% are found in India. There is important here, 75,000 species. There is a 7.46% are found in India. India has over is a 1,200 species of bird. There is an important point here. Note down your copy. The UPSC exams important question here. India has over 1,200 species of the bird, and among the mammals we have to be is a majestic as elephant found in the forest of Assam, Kerala and Karnataka. The elephant is a major is found here is the forest Assam, Kerala and Karnataka. Camel and wild us are confined to be arid area of the run of the Kutch in Gujarat. There is a camel and wild us is a found here run of Kutch in Gujarat. Respectively, there is India is a lion. Indian lion are found in the Gir forest of Gujarat. The Indian lion is found here a Gir forest of Gujarat, and one horned to the rhinos are found in the Snapur and the Marsi is a land of Assam and West Bengal. Among the most is a handsome is an animal include 4-horned Athenophorops is a Kosarga. India is a Aptelo is a buck and gazelle. The India has several species of monkey and deer present in a forest. The species of the deer include a hangul, yellow Kashmir stag, snap is deer, a spotted deer, a mouse deer, and mouse deer. The animal belonging to be a cat family are leopards. Is clouded is a leopards and snow is leopards. Is a several interesting animal are found in the Himalayan range such as a wild sheep, and mountain goats and ibex, asher, and the tapir. That is important here. The birds, the life is equally is a rich and colorful in our country. That's important here. The bird's life is equally rich and colorful in our country. The goddess is a peacock is the India as a national bird. The peacock is a India as a national bird in the forest and wetland is a peasant is a geese, a dog and my hen and the parakeet, pigeon, canis and hornbill and the sunbirds are found. There are song bird like is a nut angle and the bulbul. There is an important word found in the India. The next year, livestock is here. India has about 3/5 or 57% of the world as a buffalo population and about 1/6 or 50% of the cattle population. Madhya Pradesh and Uttar Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, Bihar, Uttarakhand, Jharkhand, Maharashtra, Orissa, Karnataka, and Rajasthan have over two-thirds of the cattle population of India. One-fourth of the total sheep of India is found in Rajasthan, and more than half of the Indian as a goat are found in Bihar, Jharkhand, Rajasthan, and West Bengal and Uttar Pradesh. There is a livestock is the most important point here. And also here the farm animals such as ox, buffalo, cow are friends of the farming community. In India, they are used in the various form of operations such as plunging, sowing, threshing and transporting of farm product. However, with the farm is a mechanisms and especially in a green revolution area of north-western India, the coastal Andhra and Tamil Nadu and other is a pockets. The importance of the damped energy for agricultural operation is on the decline. The milk is provided by the cow and sheep buffaloes, and sheep is provided as a bull, mutton and skin. Goat is supplied to milk, meat, hair, herons and skin. Chicken is a duck, geese and turkeys are referred to the eggs and feather. There is the most important here. The next here, fisheries. The fisheries is also is important here. There is a large scope for the development of fisheries in a country because of large continental shelf of the 20 lakh square kilometer. Ability of sufficient fish food in the big lake and rivers. Oceanic is a quaint and skill to the fisherman. The marine fishing is done in a sea and the ocean, and inland fishing is a carried of the lake, river and reservoirs. There is an important here, and more than 1,800 distinct species of the fish are known to their exist in India. Four forms of the fisheries are found in India, such as marine fisheries, freshwater or inland fisheries, and sterile fisheries are and the pearl fisheries. The marine fisheries cannot accounted for about 63% of the animal fish production. And major fish are ch19 and mackerels and prawns is a capoids and the silver whales. There is an important fish measure here. About the 2/5 or 37% of the country as a total fish production come from to the inland fisheries. The major fish are cattle, roita, cabalbacilla, marginal and the crabs, etc. The more than 9/10 of 97% of country as a total production of marine fish, and more than 3/4 or 77% of the inland water fish is raised in Kerala, Maharashtra, Tamil Nadu, West Bengal, Andhra Pradesh and Karnataka and Gujarat. Notably, all are the coastal state here is important. The next point is in the box. There is the most important here. Note down your notebook. The forest area covered in India is about 23% of total geographical area, which is a much below the figure mentioned in the National Forest Policy to maintain ecological balance here. And next point here, according to the National Forest Policy, about 33% of total area of the country should be under forest in order to maintain ecological balance. That is important here. And about 75,000 species of animal and over 1200 species of the birds are found in India. There is a most important point. Nearly a three-fifths or 57% of world is a buffalo population and 50% of the cattle population is found in India. There is important here and four forms of the fisheries are found in India such as a marine, freshwater, estuarine and the parallel fisheries is here. There is a most important point in the box. The next topic is the most important here, distribution of abiotic resource. There is an important point here, distribution of abiotic resource here. A land resource. First point here, a land resource. Land resource is a abiotic resource here. India is covered on area of 32,87,263 square kilometer. There is the most important for UPSC examination here. 32,87,263 square kilometer. India cover the area here. According to the area size, it is the seventh largest country of the world after the Russia, Canada, China, USA, Brazil and Egypt. You know that there is an important point here. The sixth country here, Russia, Canada, China, USA, Brazil and Egypt. There is come to the number of seventh largest country in a seventh point of India here. The vessel size itself is the most important resource. About 30% of area is covered by the mountains, which are the source of scenics of beauty, perennial rivers, home and forest and wildlife here. About 43% of land area is a plant which is highly suitable for agriculture, remaining about 27%. Under the plateaus is the storehouse of mineral and metal here. The next here, water resource. There is an important point here, water resource here. India is fortunate to have a large water resource here. And diversity in resources is a result of diversity in a land in form of glacier. The surface river and underground water, rain and oceans. The average annual rainfall in estimate at 170 centimeter. The important point here, the annual rainfall on the resource and water is 170 centimeter only. The rivers are major source of surface water in India. The rivers are major source of surface water in India. The Indo and the Ganga, the Brahmaputra carry about 60% of the total surface water. Replenishable groundwater potential in India is about 434 billion cubic meters. There is important here of 434 billion cubic meters. Today, over 70% of the population use groundwater for its domestic needs, and more than half of the irrigation is obtained from this source. There is an important point here. The next here, mineral resource. Mineral resource here, India is a very rich in a mineral resource and has a potential to become an industrial power. It possesses a large source of iron ore is extensive a deposit of coal. The mineral oil rich deposit of bauxite and mica. The Jharkhand, Odisha and Chhattisgarh possess a large concentration of mineral deposit here and accounting for the nearly three-fourths of country as a coal deposit. Other important minerals found in our country are iron, ore, manganese, mica and bauxite and radioactive minerals here. The next point is the most important in the box here. The India is the seventh largest area size country of the world. There is a most important point here. Note down your notebook. The average annual rainfall is estimated at 170 centimeter. The Indus, the Ganga and Brahmaputra river system carry up 60% of the total surface water available in a country. And the next point is Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh and Odisha possess a large reserve of iron ores and bauxite and mica. There is an important point here. The next topic is the most important here, resource utilization. There is an important point here, resource utilization here. To satisfy their needs, humans has been using resource for a time emerged This process is called to the resource utilization. You know that what is a resource utilization here? A human has been used to resource for a time emergent, and this process is called to the resource utilization here. The human skull, their human skull is a technical as a know-how and hard work convert to the natural stuff into the commodity or serves to be a serve of materials and spiritual needs of the human society. Thus, the resources are created by man, but he need to help of culture to convert the natural stuff into the valuable resource. Culture include all our equipment and machines, a mean of transport and communication, as well as efficient of management and group corporations and is a recreations. Intellectual is a work, education, training, and improve health and sanitation. Without a culture, man has only a limited capacity to work and produce. You know that there is a most important point here. In the modern age, the application of science and technology has increasing the human capacity and capability to use a resource in a efficient manner for a production purpose. For example, United States of America and West European country have a high development economics. You know that there is a most important point here. Example here. United States of America and West European countries have a high development economics for efficient use of their natural wealth with the advanced technologies. On the other hand, several countries in Africa, Asia, and Latin America are lagging far behind in the development level in spite of bondage. Our next topic is the most important here, extent of resource utilization in India. There is an important point here, extent of resource utilization in India here. The natural resources have played a significant role in a social economical development of our country. You know that there is an important point here. The natural resources have played a significant role in the social economical development of our country. India is the second largest agriculture giant in the world today. It is because India has a varied climatic condition and on endless as a growing season to be grow different crops. India has a large mineral belt has enabled India to be industrially developed. There is important here. The India has a large minerals belt has involved India to be industrial developed here in a recent decades in our desire not only to feed the fastly growing of population but also to be accelerate economical well began to the vast Indian population. Exploitations of resource has increased phenomenal and this has led to environmental and ecological imbalance as a resource were used on sustainable basis. Production of the resource has been to motivated by the maximization of the output and profit or maximization rather than to the optimization of net social benefit. The misuse of the source of land is under the threat of degradation because of soil erosion and deforestation and overgrazing and careless management of forest. There is a most important point here. The precise source of land is under the threat of degradation because of soil erosion, deforestation, and overgrazing and careless management of forest. Unscientific farming is a practice is like a zooming in northern East India and exclusive use of chemical fertilizer and pesticides is a coupled with the over is the aggressions and result in the loss of soil nutrition and water longing and salinity here. Under pressure from a rapidly population growth, the available sources of water are began is exploited and depleted at a fast rate. Due to the lack of technology, only 37% of total annual flow of Indian rivers and equal proportion of the available groundwater resource is available for use. There is a most important point here. After independence, the fisheries industries, particularly the marine sector, has witnessed a massive transformation from a traditional and subsistence types enterprise to be market and driven a multi-course of industries. Currently, India export nearly 55 categories of marine product to the South Asia, an European country and USA also. There is a most important but important here above to a 2 point here on note down your notebook. To the certify there is a material and spiritual need of human have has been to using their resource for the time embryo, and this is a process is called resource utilization. And the next point here, because resource of land is under the threat of degradation because of soil erosion and deforestation and overgrazing. There is a most important point here. The next topic is the most important here, conservation of resource here. There is important. Conservation of resource. Conservation of resource means their dedications as a plant use as well as a reuse of the natural resource by the avoiding there is a wastage, misuse and overuse. There is a most important here, conservation of resource here, a wastage, misuse and overuse. Depletion of resource is a matter of great concern today. In order to be reach the maximum production limits, and we are using all those resources which are in fact there is a property of future generation. In fact, as the concept of sustainable development here, and resources are the inheritance which one of generation of human society has to be passed on to a next one. No renewable resource may be come to an end after some time. There is an important point here. No renewable resource may be come to an end after some time. Therefore, striking a balance between the growth of population and utilizations of resource is absolutely is a necessary. There is important here. Of course, such a balance and bound to vary in the time and space. Obviously, we have to be look at the balance between the population and resource in a regional or country as a dynamic rather than static one. Any imbalance in either of two may be scrapped their continuity of our economics and social and culture development. So resource should be used in a planet that is a imbalance should not be taken place. That is important here. The so resource is should be a use in a plant and where to the imbalance does not be take place here. Our next topic is the most important here, methods of conservation of resource. There is a most important point arrive here, methods of conservation of resource here. The first point according to here, it is a necessity to the create awareness. It is a necessity to the create awareness about the preservation and conservation of resource among the people. They should be made aware of harmful result of large scale of destruction of the natural resource. There is a most important first point here, and the next point here, afforestation. Afforestation is the preventing the felling of the immature and young tree and creating awareness amongst the local people about the planting and nurturing trees may be help in a conserving forest. There is a second point is also important here, and the next here, third, trace of farming. Trace farming in a hill regions, a contour plunging, controlling the shifting and cultivation and overgrazing and plunging in the gulf. Some of are the impaired method of the soil conservation here. The next point here, fourth, construction of dam to be impound rainwater. Use of sprinkler and drip and trickle irrigation techniques. Recycling of water for industrial and domestical purpose will be help in a conservation of the enable water resource. The next point here, minerals are no renewable resource, so they need to be conserved through their efficient utilization and development of better technology and extraction and purification, recycling of mineral and use of substitute. The next here, 6 point, non-conventional resource of energy here. The non-conventional source of energy here is an important example. Solar, wind and water will be have to be developed in order to be save a conservational source of energy. There is important in the point in the box. There is a note down your note copy. There is a most important point here. A conclusion also. Conservation resource a mean judicious and planned use of natural resource by avoiding their wastage, misuse and overuse. And next year, it is necessary to the create awareness among to people about the preservation and conservation of resource here. And the next also, no renewable resource need to be conserved and used with utmost of care. There is an important point here. Next topic is the most important here, a policy on conservation of resource. There is a most important point arrive here, policy on conservation of resource. With the growing convenience of environment conservation, the efficient use of resource has become important for a developing country like India. There is an important point here. The source has become important for a developing country like India. We have to be increasing our R&D, research and development. There is an important point here, increasing of research and development here, effort to the exposure of the new resource. Device is a technology to the minimize, best and conserve no renewable resource. The government of India has formulated several policy and program to the implement for conservation of our biotic resource. The first here, a policy here, a Ministry of Forest and Environmental was created at union level in a country. By now, all the state government have also created a independent Ministry of Forest and Environment. There is a most important point here. Union level in a 1980 is to give to high priority to issue of relative forest and environment in a country. There is an important point here. The next important policy here, National Forest Policy of 1950. There is a most important policy here, National Forest Policy of 1950 was revised in 1988 to make on effective tools as per current need to be protection, conservation and development of forest in a country. Under this policy, social forestry scheme was launched to increase a green coverage is a produce and supply of fuel, wood, etc. That is the second point is the most important. National Forest Policy of 1950 was received in 1988. And next year, National Land Use and Conservation Board were established in 1983. This is important. National Land Use and Conservation Board were established in 1983 and restructured in 1985 for the land resource conservation and preparation of prospective plan for optimum utilization of land resource here. There is an important point. The National Water Policy was adopted in 1987, which accord to be high priority to drinking water flowing by irrigational hydropower generation and investigational industries and other use of water important here. The next point is the most important here. Our national mineral policy formed in 1990 has allowed to the board domestic and foreign enterprise to be invest in a mineral extraction and export here. It is also allowed the authority to the permit investment in a mineral extension directly under the Union Ministry of Mines. There is an important policy here. A new agriculture policy of encouragement in a giving to use eco-friendly and sustainable agriculture technology is a biotechnology. There is a most important point here. The National Forest Policy has been to the launching for the protection and development of forests. There is a most important point in the box. Note down your notebook. The National Forest Policy has been to launch it for the protection and development of forest. The next point here, National Water Policy was adopted to the conserve and preserve water resource. And next year, new agriculture policy places a primers use of biotechnology here.